Don't know what I've done. But I did lose one of these guys. It did roll away. So, farewell. Good luck to you. So that's it. You can see them there. That's what they should be looking like. Okay. Just got to clean up after myself so I don't do anything bad. And hopefully you saw most of that. I have a horrible feeling I turned the record button off. So that's not good. Okay. Alright. Now we're going to make the soup. Okay. So what we're going to do is heat up the oil. We've got 2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons of oil goes in. And we've got 40 grams of butter. Okay, can't see me very well, can you? So 40 grams of butter, in that goes. Okay, let it melt. The olive oil is not very volatile. It's already runny. The butter, though, you need to take care not to burn that. So you can heat it, but as soon as it starts to melt, you need to control that temperature just a little bit. If you don't, you can end up with a few problems. I'm just going to go and have a look at my recipe again. Okay. I choose not to turn this up really high. I have had a few burnt butter experiences, so I'm a little bit cautious. But it's still up reasonably high, and it's not all melted, but it is starting to bubble. Now then, what it wants us to put in here is now that everything's melted, we've got the onions going in that we chopped up earlier. And we've got the garlic that we crushed earlier. There we go. And in it goes. There we are. Now you saute this. So sauteing is lightly frying until it's pale golden in colour. So you don't want it really caramelised. You just want to start to cook it through. When you caramelise it, you actually start to really affect the colour of the final product. It's going to be brown or a lot browner. The taste is different as well because you get more towards that caramelised burn sort of taste. We just want this to gently saute through to lightly fry it so that we don't end up with raw or uncooked anything in our final product. Alright. Now then, this will end up cooking for about 20 minutes. So we don't want to leave the meatballs are cooling at the moment, but we don't want to leave them uncovered for too long. So once this is on the go, I will cover them over and let them sit. We don't have to refrigerate them, not for that length of time, but we still need to cover them over. So, easy bit here. We've got, and remember I've doubled it, so that's 800 grams of tomatoes. And remember we're talking about budgeting. So this soup here you can make for less than $5 for the actual soup, but for the meatballs it's a bit more. But it would come up under the budget that we've given you. And we've got some oregano, okay? In that goes. Now you have to add water. This is 2 cups. But remember I've doubled it. So I'm going to add some more. There we go. And that's pretty much it for now. Have somewhere tidy to place your spoon. So we've got to get this up to the boil. And we also need to pop in our salt and pepper. This also has to simmer for 20 minutes and let all the flavours combine in there. So what I suggest you do at this point is turn it up nice and high and pop the lid on. Nothing should stick to the bottom because it's very liquidy. If it was thicker, you'd want to stir it every so often, but for this one, I'm suggesting it's fine just to pop the lid on and let it go. There's my lid. There we go. And that's it for the next 20 minutes. I will see you back when it is done. Okay, it has been cooking for 20 minutes. The next thing we do is put in our pasta. Now, it says any small pasta. This is the one that I've got. It's tiny. You can use little macaroni if you want to. It's half a cup, but remember I've doubled it, so I'm going to put in that cup. You need to now cook it for 5 minutes. This pasta is tiny. Most pasta takes, like spaghetti, would take about 12 minutes to cook. This one takes less than that, but the last part of this is to cook this with the meatballs in as well. So make sure that after the pasta gets put in, you stir it because it will settle to the bottom, and the last thing you want is for it to stick to the bottom. I've turned it right down, but now that I've added the pasta, that would have reduced the temperature a little bit, so I'm going to turn it back up to get it on the boil. I just want to boil it a little, not too much, and then we're going to be putting it down to a simmer later. I'm just going to get my clock to check the time. So just keep an eye on it. A lot of liquid would have evaporated during the cooking as well, so there won't be as much in there now. And that's fine, but you do need to just keep an eye on it now. Before you could really leave it, but for now you need to keep an eye on it. Get your spoon into the corners where things settle. Don't have to stir it constantly. So it starts to get up to that bubble, let it go. It actually smells really good now. That garlic and onion and oregano, it's just given it enough time for the flavours to really start to combine. And with the heat, obviously, it's going to make it that much more fragrant. So the smell is really, really good. In fact, my poor kids are just hanging out to eat it, and it's going to be a little while longer. So hopefully we can get it soon. It will start to thicken up at the bottom. I'm actually not going to wait the full 5 minutes because the pasta I chose is tiny. So what I'm going to do now is turn it down, and this is important, all right, because the meatballs that you have made, they're not entirely cooked yet. In fact, I'm going to turn it right down because you can probably still hear it bubbling. We're just going to let it slow down a bit, and to do that, we can stir it as well. That'll stop that from bubbling too much. Now we're going to pop in our meatballs. Now the reason we don't want it bubbling too much at this point in time is because if it bubbles too much, your meatballs will fall apart. So you don't really want them bubbling away in there like it was before. If you do that, you could end up with a bit of a disaster on your hands. Okay. Push them through a little. Now, there you're relying on the heat from the soup to finish off the cooking process of the meatballs. So really get them through. Space them around a little. Now, what you don't want to do at this time is keep stirring it a lot. If you do that, you could end up with those meatballs falling apart. So, we're just going to let them go on a really low simmer for about 10 minutes. So, yeah, don't let that bubble. And I will be back to show you it finished in 10. Okay, I'm going to show you what it should be looking like as it bubbles away. Okay, so prepare my very amateurish video, but there you go. Can you see? So it's really just bubbling or simmering away really, really lightly. You do need to give it a stir occasionally. When you do, what I suggest you do is use your spoon, sort of really gently move from the bottom and up. So the reason that we really need to do that is just to make sure that pasta is not settling and that it is not causing a problem. Okay, you're coming with me now because we're going to garnish. And if we're going to garnish, we're going to have a look at some basil. So basil works perfectly with these flavours because we've got the tomato, the oregano, the beef mince or whatever. If it's pork, it will go. All those flavours go beautifully together. I've got a sprig of basil, and here I've got 3 leaves together. So there's different ways to do this. You can just dice. I've rolled those leaves up, and I'm just going to cut them finely. So that would be another way to garnish. I often put a little bit of basil in the soup itself, mainly because I really like basil. It's delicious. I would only add the leaves like this towards the end. You can see there's and they're just bruised enough that way to let some flavour out. So you can do that as well. I'm going to pull off a few leaves of my basil to pop into my soup. I bought the bunch for this, so I may as well use it. I will try and use it for something else a little later, but fresh herbs are the best. They taste delightful. They don't always last as long, so there's that to bear in mind. Now, as you guys probably noticed, and I mentioned on our Zoom class that I would not be... sorry, I'm just grabbing that. That I would not be using the capsicum in this. The idea is that you roast the capsicum, wrap it up in some foil. So once you've heated it, you'd wrap it in foil. The heat from the capsicum would steam inside the foil and lift the skin up. So then you can peel it, slice it, and put it in the soup. It does add another dimension to the soup, but it's one that I don't like, mainly because it's really slimy, and to me it's just gross. I'm going to just cut that up, or actually just tear that up and pop it in there. This is a personal preference, don't need it. The flavours in there are pretty good already. I just really, really like basil. So, okay. And that should be pretty much done. So we'll have a look at how we're going to present it. When you're presenting any food for photography, less is always more. If you put too much in the plate, it looks really bad. The less, the better, to make it look good. Okay, so you could serve this with some crusty bread on the side. I tend not to because it's almost like a meal of spaghetti bolognese. It's with the pasta in, you've already provided a carbohydrate, so to serve it with bread is just probably a little bit of overkill, but you still could. Some nice crusty bread on the side would be great. perfect for winter. The flavours, like I said, are really delicious. So I'm just going to keep that down low. I'm just putting some in the bowl. Now what I would do then is just put some meatballs across the top so you can see them. So when you serve it up, you leave some to sit across the top, which looks really nice. I have filled this one probably a bit more than I would like to. That extra meatball there just took up a little bit of extra space. So now that I've done that, I'm going to clean the bowl. Pop it back. Filled it, not too high. I put in, reserve some meatballs just to sit on the top. I'm going to go with my sprig of basil. And I'm going to put a tiny bit, now I would prefer the flecks for this, but I didn't have any. So I'm just going to put a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese over the top. Okay. I'll just move those. Okay. And hopefully you can see it properly. There we go. Okay, no, I know I'm not doing a good job at this at all. Oh my gosh. Giving up. There we go. Okay, so make it pretty. And it is really delicious. Hopefully you have fun making it. And I will see you next time.